One thing.
Why is it important to film interviews like this? What do you think it does for our island?
What I think it does for the island is it helps to tell people how people are changing for the island, how the island is changing by itself.
I also think that it helps the community come closer together, really getting an inside view on what people's everyday lives look like and what people go through every day.
Hi, my name is Ella, and I'm interviewing Joanne Skoken. Thank you for joining me today, Joanne.
Ella, thank you for asking. I'm excited.
Okay, so first, can you tell me a little bit about your childhood?
Well, I was born on Nantucket. My mother and father were both born on Nantucket. I have 2 older sisters, 2 younger sisters, and a younger brother. We grew up downtown, or in town. We called it the outskirts of town, but now it's considered town. I went to Academy Hill from kindergarten until 5th grade. I was in the first public kindergarten class that the state had, and beautiful Sandy Oliver was my kindergarten teacher. We spent a lot of time playing downtown. That was our playground. We hung out on Main Street. We hung out at the beaches, jetties. We went to Children's. We went to Brant Point. There were lots of kids in my neighborhood. I lived near North Liberty and Westchester, near the oldest house, near the cemeteries on New Lane, and there were lots of kids, and we spent a lot of time just roaming the neighborhood. We all walked to school together in the morning. We all walked home for lunch, and then back to school in the afternoon. So it was a great place to grow up, downtown.
So I know your parents owned an old restaurant. What was that like as a kid?
Well, my parents owned what is now American Seasons, but in my lifetime it was the North Shore. My aunt Esther owned the North Shore before my father did, but he bought it maybe in the late 60s. And all 5 of us daughters worked in the restaurant through middle school, through high school, and into college. Most of us worked in the kitchen, but we worked every day with my mother and father. And it was fun. It was hard work. Couldn't call in sick. You had to show up. When we were young, we did things like sweep the sidewalk, clean the dining room, wipe the windowsills every day. As we got older, we did dishes, we made salads. We tended bar when we got to be 18. That was a big deal. We moved into the dining room, but it was a lot of fun. As I got older and I was almost done college and 2 of my sisters were already out of college, my parents sold the restaurant. I think mostly because their workforce was growing up and moving on.
What college did you go to, and how was that transition for you?
I went to Regis College, which is a small college outside of Boston. And when I went, it was all girls, all women. Now it's co-ed, which initially kind of tugged at my heartstrings that it changed, but it's still alive. And it focuses more on nursing and healthcare now. And some kids from Nantucket have gone on to Regis, which I like. But it was a great school for someone who grew up in Nantucket in a small community to not be in the city.
When did you decide that you were going to live on Nantucket?
Well, I grew up here, and after I went to college, I came back for 1 year, as many people often do, to try to save some money. I got married and moved to Boston, and I worked in Boston at St. Elizabeth's Hospital for 3 years. And then a job opportunity came up in Nantucket. I wasn't ready to come back, but my husband wanted to come back. So we did. I went to work at the hospital, and he came back and worked at the old North Shore. So we came back. And I think probably 6 months into being back, I was really happy that we had moved back.
What was your first job on Nantucket after college?
I worked at the boarding house restaurant, which at that point in time was owned by Jimmy Pearlman, the sheriff, now. And I did the books in the morning, and I tended bar at night. We had jazz upstairs where the Pearl is now at night. After the restaurant closed, We kind of cleared the tables out, and we had 2 musicians, and it was just a place people went for a drink after dinner. And it was really fun. And Jimmy Pearlman was a great boss.
What led you to your current job?
Well, I worked at the hospital for a few years. And I loved that job, but I really wanted more intimate or more social interaction because I didn't have much there. My husband at that point was running the soda fountain at Congdon's Pharmacy, no longer in existence, but he was there. So I got done at the hospital and I went to work the soda fountain at Congdon's Pharmacy, which I loved. And we did it for 12 years. And during that time, I had my daughter, and she was about in 4th or 5th grade, and I said, it's every day of the year, and I'm ready to step back and not work every day of the year. So when my daughter got to be in 5th grade, we gave up the soda fountain lease, and just because I wanted to spend a little more time with her.
Do you like to go to the beach?
I like to go to the beach. When I go to the beach, it's usually late at night, and we usually stop at a sandwich place and get a sandwich and go to the beach. We go to something natural. We drive out to, every Nantucket person, I think, has their own name for their beaches. So we go to Mr. Rogers Beach and watch the sunset a lot, have a sandwich. So I go to the beach, but usually for dinner.
I know you're a trustee at the Coffin School. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, the Coffin School, which is the brick building on Winter Street, was founded as a school for the descendants of Admiral Coffin initially. And it taught seafaring trade to young boys. They had a training ship. As time evolved on Nantucket, they didn't need the Coffin School anymore, and actually it stopped functioning as a school for quite some time. It reopened and aided the public schools like in the 40s and the 50s, and even up until the early 60s as a trade school for mostly young men who were getting into carpentry, electricians. It taught them the trade. So if you were going to be a tradesman on Nantucket, you usually went to the Coffin School instead of the high school. When the new high school, that building over there, was built, they didn't need the Coffin School anymore. So it became the kindergarten place for a while. And now the trustees of the Coffin School don't run a school. Community Sailing has their offices there, and we rent out another office space. We just got done with a big renovation project. We have a new roof. We have new pillars. The front's been fixed. It's a beautiful building. But what we do is we support children's educational activities on Nantucket. And we provide for scholarships for Nantucket youth going to college and grad school.
Do you do any other volunteer work in the community?
Well, I do work on the high school musical every year. One of my favorite things. It's in March. There's not a lot to do. I like to help backstage. I help with ironing. I help with the costumings. I usually am backstage during the productions just to have someone back there to help people do quick clothing changes or whatever. And that's like one of my favorite things to do in the winter.
What advice would you give to someone my age growing up on Nantucket?
Well, study hard. Learn as much as you can. I'm very impressed with the students of Nantucket, of the middle school and the high school and the elementary school, at how smart they are. There's so much available, and there's so much to learn. Learn a lot. Move off island for at least a period of time. But whatever you choose to do, make sure it makes you happy.
What do you see as some of the challenges on Nantucket in the future?
Well, Nantucket, I love Nantucket now. It's so much more diverse. The year-round population is bigger. I don't know how much bigger. It's hard to tell how much bigger it is. So, of course, housing is an issue. It's always an issue. When I was younger, my parents used to rent a house out of town, and we would rent our in-town house to summer people for the summer. But I think housing's a huge issue. And I think the lack of local tradespeople rears its head, that we have so much imported labor that we have to somehow find the balance.
How do you think Nantucket has changed over the years from your childhood to now?
Well, here's a funny part of when I was growing up. When I was younger, like say age 6 to 12, on the last day of school, my parents took our bikes away. And we weren't allowed to have our bikes back until Labor Day. And the reason was there was too much traffic. I mean, it's kind of funny to think that 50 years ago, there was too much traffic downtown. But, more people lived in town. I think if we lived out of town, we probably would have been able to keep our bikes. But that was a big deal. Well, there's certainly more sprawl and less open space. I mean, the Conservation Foundation, they've all done a great job in keeping open space, and there's always somewhere you can go. It's busier, it's fancier.
What's your favorite season?
I think always the one that's coming up. I love winter when it happens. I love the summer. I love all of the people, as long as it's not a rainy summer. The visitors are always happy. They love coming here. It's beautiful. They love the beaches. They love to be downtown. So I love the summer. But, you're ready for fall when it happens. You're ready for spring when it happens, So no favorite season. Favorite month? Maybe January or February.
Who has influenced you the most?
Probably my sisters. We've all done different things. We all get together a lot. We spend a lot of time together. But we all do different things, and we all have advice for each other, whether we follow it or not.
What is your favorite spot on Nantucket?
My global favorite spot would be downtown. It's a beautiful downtown. We probably have the most beautiful Main Street. And I love the library. I love being home.
Are there any final thoughts you would like to share that I haven't asked?
Well, I love this project. It's been really fun to look at the previous projects and the previous participants talking about their time on Nantucket. And I think that, the seventh graders are stepping up and doing something fun and different and something that will be treasured for years. So I'm grateful for that.
Well, thank you for your time today.
Ella, thank you. It's been wonderful.
Said, Joanne was kind of talking about as a kid, she loved to hang out in town, and I can relate to that. I like hanging out in town too, but she said town's a lot different. It's changed a lot. She used to go to the pharmacy and hang out there, and I do that sometimes too, so it's kind of funny that we can relate, even though it's a long time ago.
Hi, my name is Sam Iller.
And I'm Shay Dwyer. And we're interviewing Jim Pearlman on January 15th, 2019.
We understand that you were born in Burlington, Vermont. What was it like there, and what did you do for fun?
What did I do for fun? When I was growing up, I went skiing. Even before I had a driver's license, I was part of a group, and we'd take a bus, usually to Stowe, and go skiing. So that was the most recreational fun I had when I was growing up.
What was your childhood like?
I think I don't remember anything unusual about it. I was born there, grew up there, went through school there, and when I got out of high school, that's when I ended up moving to Nantucket.
When did you first come to Nantucket?
I believe it was in 1952 with my family. I was just 2 years old. And from then I started spending time almost every summer.
When did you first realize you wanted to move to Nantucket?
I was a summer kid. I worked at the jetties when I was here in the summer in my high school, junior high and high school years. And one summer at the end, I decided I'd stay on a little longer. That was in 1970, and I'm still here.
What jobs did you have before you wanted to become sheriff?
Oh, I had many jobs. I was in the restaurant business. I owned the boarding house downtown. And before that, I had worked at the Jared Coffin House and the Mad Hatter. I did that at night, and I also worked as a baker at the Downy Flake. And in between, I'd scallop in the winter, do some gardening, landscaping in the summer, things like that.
What made you want to become the sheriff?
Well, one of my part-time jobs before I was sheriff I was a court officer, and I was sort of following the politics of the life in the courthouse, and the sheriff is very involved in the court system here. And I said I could do that. So in 2010, I decided to run for the office.
If you didn't get elected to be sheriff, what were you going to do?
Well, I worked in restaurants, and I had a catering business. I had my own catering business, and I did some fishing in the winter, so I would have continued to do that.
What is your daily life like as the sheriff?
Well, every day is a little different, but commonly the job involves moving people who are in custody, which, for instance, yesterday it was a court day, and 2 people had come over for court, and they had been locked up in the House of Correction in Barnstable, and I took them, when they were finished with court, they were continued to be held, so I brought them back on the boat. That's one of the things I do. Other things it's called civil process, and that's, I get hired by law firms, banks, and individual people to do a combination of things. One would be to collect money, one would be to negotiate disputes with landlords and tenants, things like that.
What is the hardest part of being the sheriff?
I found that the hardest part is having to remove people from their homes. Sometimes people have done all the right thing. They might be a tenant, they might be a homeowner. They've either a combination. They might have come upon hard times and they can't pay their rent, or they've done everything right, but the landlord wants their property back. So to tell people that they have to leave is very difficult.
How did your family react when they heard you wanted to be the sheriff?
They were all very supportive. They had an idea that this is what I wanted to do, and so they were all really happy for me.
When you take a prisoner off island, how does that make you feel?
Well, it's interesting because most of the people I take off island I know, because they're from Nantucket. Not all, but many. And I end up talking to the prisoners when I have them, so make them comfortable in their surroundings. Some of them have been on and off many times and are regulars, but some, if it's their first time and they're nervous, I want to make them as comfortable as I can so they don't do something that might be a rash or might make be a mistake on their part. So I kind of prepare them for where they're going. I tell them that's if you're respectful and say yes or no, sir, to the guards once they get to jail, that it'll make it much easier on themselves. The first few times, it didn't seem odd to me to be taking people, although it's odd for some of the other people we used to fly, and then when one of the airlines went out of business, we started taking the boat. But we're on the same plane or boat as you might be going on vacation or going off for the weekend. So people see me, they know me, they might not spot the person who's in custody. They'll want to come up and talk to me, and then they'll see somebody all chained up, and it makes them uncomfortable. But I just want the person in custody to be as comfortable as they can, so they're not surprised at where they're going, and they're not uncomfortable in their surroundings, riding with other people, some of whom they may know.
What is the best thing that's ever happened to you in your life?
The best thing is probably moving to Nantucket and being a part of this community.
What do you do to give back to Nantucket?
I'm in, let's see, what do I do? Well, I think we discussed this earlier. I had a fundraiser a couple of months ago to shave my mustache for the Fair Winds organization. So that was an easy thing for me to do to give back. I'm also a member of the Rotary Club, and they do a lot of community service projects, and I'm involved with that as well.
While you were working at the Jared Coffin House, were you the chef?
I wasn't the chef, but I was one of the line cooks. I got into cooking when I was in high school. When I told you my first job was at the Jetties Beach, I worked in the kitchen there. And I started when I was 14. But then all the jobs that followed that, I always ended up working with food, working in the kitchen. So one job led to the next. I started baking at the Jared Coffin House after I had started spending summers here when I decided to stay year-round. And then that worked into a cooking job. And then in between, I'd always work a couple of jobs. So while I was cooking at the Jared and then on to the Mad Hatter after that, I was also baking at the Downy Flake. And then at one point, my wife and I decided we're working too hard for somebody else. Let's try and do this for ourselves. So we ended up in 1978, my wife and I bought the boarding house. And then I continued to be the chef. We were there for 8 years. Somebody made me an offer I couldn't refuse, so I sold that business. And then I worked in a couple of restaurants after that again. And then I went on to open a catering business, which I ran until about 4 or 5 years ago. I guess I could continue. I was in the National Guard in my career being a cook, and they had a mail order sort of cooking class. So I took that, and that's not that I learned how to cook that way. I already knew how to cook, but that taught me a lot about volume cooking. The food was good.
What should we do as 7th graders to help out in the community and what to do to be safe?
Well, I think by the time you're in 7th grade, you've probably had some experience with things that might be distractions, alcohol and drugs. I think you're probably aware that the stuff is out there. And you gotta think of, it might be an interesting thing to do at the moment, but you have to think down the road of the consequences of some of those things. I'm guessing that's been introduced both at home and in school for you guys to be made aware of things you should and shouldn't do.
Is there anything else you want to tell us that we haven't asked?
Well, I'm out there in the community. I talk to people. It's part of my favorite thing about being on Nantucket and it being a small town. I think that's probably not uncommon for a small town, but I just love being out in the public eye and talking to people and listening to their concerns, helping them if I can. 7th grade, you probably are starting to think about, you've got college coming up in 4 or 5 years. I'm sure you're both going to do that. And what are your interests? What are you thinking of your future? Where do you see yourself in 10 or 15 years after you get out of college?
Well, I want to go to MIT for college. And after that, I was hoping to maybe be an engineer.
Uh-huh. So that would probably mean you wouldn't be staying on Nantucket.
Yeah.
All right. That's interesting. I don't think there are many engineering jobs here, but maybe. Shay, how about you?
I don't really know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
See where it takes me.
You involved in any sports? Yeah. What do you play?
I play baseball and basketball.
Yeah. Great. How about you, Sam?
I play soccer.
Uh-huh. Great.
Thank you for coming and taking your time.
You're welcome. Thank you. See you around town. We're going to do a ride around. We're going to do a ride along. We'll figure out when we can do that.
That'd be great.
Okay.
I learned a lot about my person and what he does to help the community and how he felt growing up here and living on Nantucket.
And how do you connect with that?
I connect with that because I see what he does to help the community, and I also want to help the community too. And it makes me feel really good that there's people like that in our community.
He first came to Nantucket when he was like 2 years old. And then he started coming here for summers when he was like 14. And he lived with his grandparents. And from then he knew he wanted to live here.
Hi, my name is Grant Johnson.
Hi, my name is Eden Vasquez.
We are interviewing Barry Thurston. The date is January 10th, 2019. Thank you for joining us. Where were you born?
I was born here on the island.
As a child, what was it like growing up on Nantucket?
It was, truthfully, it would be a lot different than now. Number one, the island probably had about 3,000 people on it at the time. My graduating class in high school had 20 kids in total. I came to the high school here, and it was brand new at the time. Not this big building that you see today, but I guess what is now the junior high school. So I came here in 1956 and graduated in June of 1959. As I said, with 20 kids. We had 15 boys and 5 girls. A real small class.
Now we have like 100 something in just 7th grade.
You what?
Now we have like 100 something.
Yeah, I know it. It's amazing.
Like you mentioned, like when you guys would come to school, it'd be open field, and you guys would bring your guns and shoot ducks and pheasants.
Right. That should probably fall under the difference again between when I grew up on the island and now. When I grew up here, as I said, there were no houses over here on the right-hand side. The hospital wasn't there. My class was the first class to go all 4 years in this building here. They had just built it when I became a freshman. So, but I live off Quaker Road, and we used to actually hunt our way to school. We'd hunt down through Dead Horse Valley, and these fields over here were nothing but fields without any homes in it. And then I guess what freaks most people out is that when we got to school, the principal at the time, Mrs. Walker, had a room set aside for our guns. So we would walk into school carrying guns. Nobody thought about anything about it in those days, but we couldn't take them to class. We had to give them Mrs. Walker. She would put them in this room and probably lock the room during the day. And then at night when we left, we'd go get our gun and hunt our way home. Quite a change.
Get arrested.
I'd get arrested today. You're right. You're right.
Yeah. Where have you lived throughout your life?
Okay, when I left Nantucket, I lived in Boston for a number of years, went to college and then worked there. And then I moved to New Jersey, Hartford, Connecticut, Baltimore, Maryland. Then I came back here.
What did you study in college?
I studied business.
Where did you go in college?
I went to Boston University.
What was one of your happiest memories of your life?
The happiest memory of my life. Wow. Probably, I'm going to have to be very politically correct here. It was either my wedding date or the birth of my daughter. One of the two. I should be free to get home tonight now. I said the right thing.
What were your parents' jobs as a kid?
Well, my father had a company down on the wharf. Now, the wharf in those days didn't look anything like it does today. There was no marina. It was the company had lumber yards and, believe it or not, coal sheds and a hardware store and gas stations. So it was really a working waterfront versus the marina that you see today. And my mother, like a lot of women in those days, didn't work. She stayed at home with the kids.
Was money hard to find?
Money? Yes, it was. It was nothing like it is today. Even in the summertime, it was still pretty quiet. And most people made most of their income in the summertime, but winter was pretty lean, probably.
What job do you do now?
Basically, I'm retired now. I sold my business. What I do in the summertime, I work for the trustees of reservations and give the natural history tours out at Great Point from May until October.
Have you built up your business?
Well, the business that I had that I sold, I guess we were talking about, and it was something I started from scratch and had it for 34 years, I think, until I sold it.
Could you tell us more about your business?
I will. The name of the store was Barry Thurston's Fishing Tackle, and that pretty much sums it up. It was a store that really dealt with fishing equipment for the individual versus commercial fishing equipment, beach casting or fishing from a boat, but aimed at the individual person, not commercial fishing. So I had that store, as I said, for I think 34 years. Met a lot of great people. Really enjoyed the 34 years of it. We had a good mixture of both local people and summer people.
I believe my grandfather went to your tackle shop a bit. Ken Huggins.
Yeah, and I remember your other grandfather, Phil Grant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you do for fun nowadays?
I do a lot of fishing in the summertime. In the wintertime, pretty much just exercising outdoors and nothing organized. Travel a lot if we can. That's always fun.
What are some of your hobbies?
Hobby, fishing, woodworking around the house.
How long have you been married?
43 years.
If you have any children, how many do you have?
I have one daughter.
What is your favorite restaurant and why?
The favorite restaurant? I guess probably it would be Fosaro's. First of all, I like the food, and to me it's a local couple that own it, and they stay open year round. That's important, I think.
If you could start over, what would your dream job be?
Good question. It would probably be in the engineering field, probably somewhere in maybe in automotive engineering.
What is your best childhood memory?
I think probably just there was so much open space on the island at the time that there were always baseball games going on or neighborhood games, and it was because there was so much open space. So at any time, especially in the summertime, all you really had to do was go downtown, and you could always find kids that wanted to play baseball or go to the beach. So I think my childhood memories are my best.
How has Nantucket changed from when you were a child to now?
Okay, first of all, the population is probably 4 to 5 times what it was when I was growing up here. Secondly, pretty much everybody lived in town. A few people live in Sconset, but all the houses that you see around the school here, including the school, they weren't here. This was all open field. So just about everybody lived in town in those days.
What is your favorite time of the year?
The fall. The weather's still good. It's quieted down quite a bit. The water's still good for swimming and the fishing's good. So the fall, probably.
Well, thank you for letting us interview you.
It's my pleasure. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Glad to meet both of you.
You too. He owned a tackle shop in town for almost 35 years, and then sold it because he found it kind of getting a boring job, and then now he does tours out at Great Point.
Hi, my name is Claire Martin. And I'm Ana Julia Matos. And we are interviewing Miss Regina Sincer. The date is January 14th, 2019. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's begin with the first question. So you were born in Brazil. How was it like there?
Brazil, it's my country, you know. Everything's good. When I step there, I feel like I'm home. I don't have to think twice. Two languages, you know. I just can speak on my own language. It's wonderful because I was growing up in a farm, basically in the jungle. I never forget that river and the woods, and that was our playground, you know. I was always happy, you know. I was very poor, and my mother was working all the time, and she works for my uncle in his farm, and she was to be the person who cooks for everybody, so she was really busy. So we had freedom, you know. I always tell my mother that we were raised by God's grace because mommy did not have time for us, and she was always working, so we had our jobs too, you know. My job was to fetch water in the river and bring it home and, you know, clean the dishes in the river. We used to go across the river, swim across the river, and, you know, and have fun out there. We never went hungry, you know. Was always banana trees everywhere. That's why I still love banana.
When you first came to Nantucket, what was hard to deal with?
I felt very lonely because I had no friends, and I did not speak English very well, so I had to depend on people to help me all the time. That's why I decided to really learn the language so I could, you know, not asking people to help me anymore. So I remember I still have this little dictionary in Portuguese English that I used to carry everywhere with me. That was my guide. I even went to, one time my car broke down and I went to the mechanic and I pointed to him. This is broken. So he was able to fix my car for me. Sorry. I get emotional away because it's wonderful to be here too, you know. And I started going to the library here, the Anthony Library, and they had free classes over there too. And so that was wonderful. That I still go in there sometimes, you know, because I still like, I need to learn more. But I came here, I started working this school in 2000. I worked here for 2 years cleaning the school. And Jean Allen was the English teacher back then. She used to do free classes. So she was my favorite person, you know, because she's very patient, and I still love her. Wherever I go, she knows my name. We talk, we go to the bank, I see her, stop shop, and she's wonderful. And she used to teach English, and I used to come, and all the middle school teachers, they stay after school when you guys go home, and I came to clean their rooms, and they will talk with me and teach me, you know. So I have like tons of people who really help me, you know, through these years.
What do you do to help the community?
You know, right now, I'm involved in the Immigration Resources Center, and I try to help the immigrants, you know, what I can. And I love to, sometimes I help the elementary school, which translation to the parents too. But I like to put meals together for people because I love to cook, you know. I learned through the years to cook because I did not like that before. But if somebody's sick and I know they're sick, and if somebody had a baby, I throw like 3 weeks of meal, and the whole community pinching, especially my church, Summer Street Church. We have this wonderful group of, you know, members. If you say, oh, somebody's sick, they cannot cook it, we got like 3 weeks of food, like every day for this person, you know. So I love to bring people together.
So you said that you were building a school in Haiti. What was it like? What is it like?
I'm going to start so you can understand how I got there, And when I live in Brazil, I never even heard about Haiti. But I believe that God brought me to Nantucket so I could get there. So I think ever, was well planned, because when I came to America, I did not plan to stay here. I had a plan set to go back home in 3 years after I worked for 3 years, help my parents. That was my purpose, to help my parents and go back home and go do master degree and keep going to school. But then, I met my husband. A year later, I was married, and my life was kind of upside down. And after the earthquake hit Haiti, 2010, I met this lady from Haiti that was here in Nantucket working for Sue Gentners. She was to be her parents' caregiver. So, and she was from Haiti. And the day she arrived in Haiti, that's the day the earthquake happened, and she ended up with tons of street kids. And she decided to stay there and help these children. And she came back here to do fundraise. Our church helped her. And I fell in love with her because her thing was like, education was the basic, and I love education because I think we're so lucky here now. You guys have all this school and these wonderful teachers and everything, but back in other countries, we don't have that. You have to work really hard. So I went back to Eve Rose in 2013. And she invited me to go up in the mountains. I've never been a mountain in my life. And it was not very funny because I have to go up there in a motorcycle. I paid the guy $16 to take me out there. And there was no roads, Haiti. The soil is like our rocks, very rocks. So the motorcycle go bump, bump, bump the whole way through. And I just pray because I don't want to die, because I left my husband, 2 kids here. And and the cliff was like, I looked down, I couldn't even look. So I had my eyes closed the whole time. And that was very, very scary. But when I got up there, it was so beautiful. And I met these people there waiting for me. And it was no kids. It was just adult people. So my friend said to me, and then I met this guy from Spain. He was there. He had this little group of people studying, and they all learned to read and write because they never went to school in their lives. So he said to me, I don't know what I'm going to do because my wife is not feeling very well and I have to go back to Spain. And I don't know, I don't want this to be finished, but I don't know what to do. And then I said to him, you know what? I can pay $100 for a teacher every month, and he keep teaching these people. And so I took it over for $100. I don't know what I was thinking, But $100 was easy for me. I just come to Nantucket, work and pay for that teacher every month. But then people start coming, more and more. And he had 15 people. And now I have 175 students, and I have to pay 5 teachers. So every month I send $500 to pay these 5 teachers. They spread through the mountains and teach these people. And so 2 years ago, I went back there, and I was able to graduate 15 of them. And they were writing and they were reading. And one of my students is 73 years old. So it is pretty amazing. It's very important for them because this one lady told me, it's like you give their dignity back. If somebody says, sign here for me, they don't have to put their finger there. They can just, do their name. And that was the most amazing thing when she told me that. So last year, I was able to buy a huge piece of land for $2,000. And I put in my friend Zivi Rose's organization's name. so nobody would take later, you know?
So you said that your kids were born in Nantucket. What was it like raising your kids in Nantucket?
You know, this I tell everybody, and some people does not like a small town. And I am a small town girl, so you know, I love Nantucket. The day I stepped my foot out of that boat. And it was hard when I came first, but raising kids here is great, you know. My two boys, Gabriel is in 8th grade, Ben is in 6th grade. They're both are Boy Scouts. My husband is the scout leader. And we do a lot of camping, a lot of fun, a lot of hiking, biking, you know. It's just a fun place to be. You can have freedom, you know. You can do whatever you want. You leave your house open. People can come anytime. I think this is a good place to be. We're very, very blessed to be here.
What was your greatest achievement, or is?
You know, I think for me, it was helping my parents. I'm very thankful for them because I started going to school. I was 10 years old because we had no school in the farm. But my parents used to do anything for us to go to school. School was the most important thing for my father and my mom because they never had the chance to go to school. They went to school 1st and 2nd grade, and they learned to read and write basic on their own too, you know, and they educate themselves. So education was the point for us, and it was important for my dad to see us all graduating to college. My whole family, me and my brother and sisters, is pretty much the only ones who made through college. So for me, that was, you know, very important. I'll say that to my children every day because sometimes they complain about going to school. And I said, you guys are very lucky. You just get up and go to school and do your best there.
What is your daily job now?
So I still cleaning, you know, and I have been doing this on my own for 16 years. When I first came to Nantucket, I was to work for another company for 3 years, and I work for this girl 5 to 2:30 in the afternoon. Then I come here to school and I work here 2:30 to 11 at night. 7 days a week, no days off. So I did that for 3 years and a half. But one day I get up in the morning, maybe my wrong foot, and I quit both jobs. And I start my own business. I met Wendy Hudson, who is the owner of the Book Works and Mitchell's, and that was my first house. And it is amazing because I worked for her since then. And I saw Owen and Evelyn, you know, Evelyn was 4, Owen was 2. And I see these kids growing, and now they're in high school, the other one in college, and it's amazing, you know. And through Wendy, I got so many more jobs. And now I have a business that I hire 3 more people to help me. And in the summer, it's 4 girls, you know. And I like to not make a big profit. I like to pay my girls very well because I like everybody to get up and go work happy. And I love my job because my job is not just about cleaning people's house. My job is about, of course, cleaning their house to make their life much easy. But through the years, you get a connection with people, you get a relationship with people, and then you end up sharing your life with them. They share your life with you. It's just like that's the thing that I love about cleaning. I have clients that we cry together, we laugh together, you know, and it's sharing life with each other. So I'm not just working for them clean. I'm just part of their lives, and they are part of my life. I love my job.
That's all I have. Thank you for your time today.
You're welcome. It was really nice, and you guys are very lovely. Thank you.
You're very lovely too. With Regina, it got really emotional, and she told us about how she came to Nantucket and why she came to Nantucket instead of just staying in Brazil where she lived 14 years. So
Hi, my name is Anya Friedman. And I am Erin Bradley. We are interviewing Roberta Santos. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Growing up in Seekonk, what was it like?
Seekonk is a small town, and it's kind of in the country. So I had a great childhood. We had lots of animals. We had a little mini farm. My mom was a single parent, and she actually built a barn with her best friend from high school named Alberta, and they built a barn so that we could have a goat. So I had chickens and ducks and a gander who was really mean. His name was Honker. My mom liked him a lot, though, because he was like our watchdog. Whenever anybody pulled down our driveway, he would honk and go up to the fence and make a lot of noise, and my mom really liked that.
Did you always know you wanted to be a radiologist?
Well, actually, I'm an X-ray technologist, and I didn't always know that I wanted to do that, but I really loved school, and I loved to learn. And one of the most fascinating things that I thought that I learned about was the human body, the anatomy and the physiology of the human body. And so I thought I wanted to do something in the medical profession, but didn't know exactly what. And I went to the guidance office, and my guidance counselor helped me look at all the different careers there were out in the health profession. And we came up with X-ray technology. So I went to school for that, and I'm very glad that I did, because I've been working in that field for a really long time.
Where did you go to college?
I went to a community college in Lincoln, Rhode Island, and it's called Rhode Island Community College. And the X-ray technology program is a 2-year program, but it's different than if you go to school at other colleges, because you don't get any breaks. You go to school for 24 months straight. And I graduated from high school June 4th, and then I started college on June 21st. So I didn't even get a summer break. We had classroom time and we had clinical time. So you were either in a classroom learning or you were at the hospital working in the radiology department and learning how to take care of people. So it was 24 months of a lot of work.
Why and when did you decide to move to Nantucket?
Well, that's a funny story, because when I went to school, I trained at Memorial Hospital in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and I had a best friend that I met in college named Chris, and she was moving to Nantucket to take a job at Nantucket Cottage Hospital as an X-ray technologist. So she said to me, you know, I don't want to talk you into anything, but they do have a second opening if you want to check it out. And I said, you know, I love where I work. I love my job. I'm not really looking for a job, but I had never been to Nantucket. So I said, gee, you know, I could go over for an interview and I can pretend like I'm interested in the job, but I just don't have to take it. That was my plan. That's not the way it worked out, though. When I came to Nantucket, it was, for my interview, it was April of 1981, and it was very quiet in the off season back then. I flew from New Bedford. The administrator of the hospital was busy in a meeting, so his secretary brought us downtown, and we walked around downtown for a little while, and we went to the Atlantic Cafe, and we had lunch there, and then she picked us up to take us to the hospital so that I could have my interview, and I had already fallen in love with the island, and I said to Chris, my friend, I really want that job. I want to work at that hospital because I really want to live here.
Do you have any relatives on the island?
When I first moved here, I didn't know anybody except Chris that I moved here with. But when I moved here, I started to meet people, and I happened to meet my husband, Tom Santos. His grandmother and grandfather lived here, and his parents lived here, and he has probably 30 cousins that all grew up here on Nantucket. So I married Tom, who I fell in love with, but I fell in love with his entire family. So all of a sudden, I was somebody who didn't know anybody on Nantucket, and I got to know a great family and lots of other families, and then lots of other people, and I've made some really good friends here too.
What do you think is the best thing about Nantucket?
Well, I think Nantucket is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in my life. And I think the beaches are gorgeous, and there's so many beautiful places in nature. I love to walk my dog on the beach in the state forest. I like to go to the beach and go treasure hunting and look for heart-shaped rocks and shells, and you can find some really pretty things on the beach.
What's your favorite place on Nantucket and why?
Ooh, my favorite place. I have a lot of favorite places, but one of my favorite places on Nantucket is 40th Pole, which is on the North Shore. And I started going there with my husband when we were young and single, and we continued to go there when our children were babies. And then as our kids grew up, all of our friends meet there at 40th Pole on Sundays, and we spend the entire day together. And our kids have grown up all together with a great group of friends and family.
Have you ever done any volunteer work on the island?
I was actually a Girl Scout leader, and I did that for quite a few years while my daughter was in Girl Scouts, and that was a lot of fun. Then when my kids got a little older and they were in high school, I used to volunteer for the Boosters Club and work in the shack at the football field. So I really enjoyed that because it was great being a whaler mom. I was very, very proud of my whalers. And on Friday nights before the football games, they used to do spaghetti dinners at the Downy Flake. My husband and I both volunteered, and we'd feed the team spaghetti and meatballs and garlic bread and salad. And we usually made brownies for dessert. And the whole team would come together, and they would all eat a nice meal and share stories and get ready for the game the next day.
What is your favorite thing about working at the hospital?
I think working at the hospital is really rewarding and satisfying for me because I am taking care of all the people in my community, from babies to children to adults to elderly people. So I feel like I'm keeping the community safe and healthy by taking care of them at the hospital. And I also take care of visitors, and they come here to enjoy the island and go biking and swimming. And so I feel like just taking care of people is the best part.
What's your proudest memory of your life?
I feel really fortunate to have met my husband here and gotten married. And I have 2 children. And I would have to say I am really proud of my children, who are now adults, but I'm really proud of who they have grown up to be. They both are living on Nantucket now, and they're both an integral part of the community, and they both love it here. So I would have to say I'm proud of who my kids have grown up to be.
Moving into the new hospital, what are your feelings about it?
I am really excited about moving into the new hospital. I've been there for 37 years working. When I first came to the hospital here, it was very small, and the radiology department just had 2 x-ray rooms. The hospital has grown quite a bit, and especially the radiology department. Now we have x-ray and we have CAT scan, mammography, ultrasound, bone density. We have MRI. We have all these different types of radiology services. And we've been in this building since 1956, and we've kind of outgrown our space. So moving into the new building is really exciting because it's large and spacious and very organized. And we're getting a lot of new equipment, which means we're improving our technology. So we'll be able to do more exams faster, a better service to everybody that walks into the building, because we have a lot of great technology going into the building. And I'm very excited to be a part of it. I've never been part of a brand new hospital before, so I can't wait to move in.
Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. It was great meeting you too. And thank you for having me.
Like, she said that she never knew like what she wanted to be when she was older. So she went to the guidance counselor and like she wanted to help people. So they're like a radiologist because she was always interested in like the human body. And then that's like what got her on her career. But like she never knew. Yeah.
That she didn't know that she wanted to live on Nantucket until she came right on Nantucket and she was in a plane. And she knew she wanted to live there because of how beautiful it looked to her.
Hi, my name is Nick.
Hi, my name's Jordan.
We are interviewing Joe Manning. Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks. I'm glad you guys are doing this with me.
Were you born in Nantucket?
No, I grew up near Buffalo, New York, and I in a small town called Attica.
So tell me a bit more about Attica.
It's quite a small town. There's a lot more cows than people there. It's Maine. It's somewhat known to many people as a prison town. Has a very large maximum security prison for New York State. But when you grow up there, I guess I kind of forget that it's sort of there, even though I was an employer for a lot of my friends' families and whatnot. But it's a very small, rural town with farms everywhere.
Yes. Tell us a bit more about your childhood.
I have an older brother, Matt, and we grew up on this road where our house is about 7 miles out of town. Across the street was a dairy farm, and next door was a cornfield, and then there was a sheep farm just past that. And then there was a little lake and a stream, and basically I spent probably 2/3 of my childhood in the woods and along that stream, just fishing and catching crayfish.
So when did you come to Nantucket?
I came here when I was a kid for about half a day one time. And then after that, I came here in, I think that was in the late 80s. And then in 2001, I moved here full time.
What do you do for work?
I'm a physical therapist.
Do you enjoy your job?
Yes, I do. It's a great job.
What kind of studying did you do to become a physical therapist?
I went to physical therapy school.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm kidding. But it's a specific degree profession, and it's changed over time. But for the most part, most schools have a major in physical therapy, and you follow that track. And nowadays, you have to go for longer than when I had to, so it's become quite an extensive education.
So, is it a hard life being a physical therapist?
Well, you have to define hard. I would say my life is better than 99.999% of the people on this planet, so I would have to say no.
When you became a physical therapist here, did you start knowing a lot more people?
Well, I worked at the hospital for 5 years, and that was very rewarding, and I got to know a lot of really great people. And that really helped me when I went into business for myself because I already knew a lot of people. I knew I wanted to be here. And Nantucket's a place, and you guys grew up here, but coming from an outsider's perspective like mine, it's a place where you can get to know people quite quickly. And, you're probably a lot less anonymous than you think, especially you guys. So that's why you got to be careful, all right?
Yes.
Yeah, how does it feel being a business owner?
I definitely like it. There's no doubt about that. It's kind of hard to predict whether or not you will like it, I think. There's good parts and there's bad parts, but it's certainly rewarding.
Could you tell me the good and bad parts about your business?
Payroll, bills, and no, those are the bad parts. But actually, they're so far outweighed. My job, I'm very lucky that I get to see and interact with a lot of people in the community on a daily basis. And my coworkers are awesome people, and they're just nice to be around as well. So I feel very lucky I get to interact with the community on a regular basis. And something when I was a kid, I never would have thought that would be important to me. But as an adult, you realize how rewarding that is.
What is your favorite thing on Nantucket? What is your favorite thing to do during vacation on Nantucket?
Oh, there's a lot of things. I've got 2 young boys, so spending time with them and my wife, I really like. So days at the beach are always good, or going to Alta Rock, or going for a hike somewhere. I really enjoy.
What's your son's names?
I have a 7-year-old son named Will and a 5-year-old son named Hank.
Oh, okay. You say you have a wife, so what's her name?
Her name is Molly.
Do you volunteer with anything in Nantucket?
Currently, I'm involved with the Nantucket Boys and Girls Club and with Sherburne Commons.
What's your favorite thing and why?
My favorite thing is probably extra crispy chicken wings because they taste really good.
Okay.
But also they come from Buffalo. I think I grew up with that as a staple.
Okay. Are you where you envision yourself to be?
I don't really know. That's a good question, and I'm very happy where I am. There's for sure, but I'm not sure if I ever thought I'd end up where I was. I guess in 7th grade, I told one of my friends after I came here on a quick day trip one time that I was going to live here someday. So I guess that came true. I don't remember that conversation, but they reminded me of that later on in life. So maybe I am where I envision myself to be, but I don't totally remember it.
When you were younger, what was your dream job?
I think when I was younger, I had a hard time thinking further than 10 days in advance. So I don't even know if I really even ever thought about a dream job, to be honest with you.
Who made you become who you are now?
Can I choose one person, or does it have to be 790,000 people? That is I think, there's the obvious people in my life: my parents, my brother, my wife, my kids, my wife's family, friends growing up, friends I have here, the people I work with. Everybody has definitely had, some sort of impact on me and kind of shaped me to who I am now. So it'd be very hard to say one person, but, certainly your parents play a big role in that. They probably had the greatest influence on me, obviously. But, it's funny how as you change with time, there's other people will influence you as well and help you make decisions and things like that as well. So it's hard to say just one or two people, but certainly my parents are probably had the greatest role.
Okay. This is a weird question, but if I was to get married, what advice would you give me?
Did you come up with that question yourself?
No.
Okay. That's what I thought. No, I was kidding. Okay. It's better than you think, okay? And I think being patient is extremely important. And I think you have to be an open communicator. And I think that's hard for a lot of people, but it makes a big difference for sure.
What was your favorite football team when you were younger or now?
So it hasn't changed, and it's never going to change, okay? It's the Buffalo Bills, all right? I really dislike I like Patriots fans, okay? But I really dislike the Patriots almost more than anything. So, and that's not going to change. And the Bills are going to be really good next year. Just trust me.
Do you have anything that like you want to tell us that we haven't asked yet?
Do you guys like 7th grade?
I want to graduate.
Why?
Because I'm out of school. Yeah.
School's tough at your age, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But like right now, you're in like the worst year of school. Next year is like a little bit better, and then it's a little bit better after that, and it's a little bit better after that. And you will definitely enjoy school as these next few years go by. Right now, you're in like the worst grade. 7th grade's tough.
Yeah. And then comes life.
Yeah, but you're living life right now, so don't worry about that.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
No, I'm cool.
Thank you.
Hey, you guys are awesome.
Thank you for your
It's a pleasure to meet you guys and get to know you this past week.
Hi, my name is Chloe Marrero.
And I am Samantha Lester.
Hi,
We are
ladies.
interviewing Zona Butler.
Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
So first question, were you born on Nantucket?
I'm afraid not. I've lived here for about 30 years, but not a Nantucketer.
Where were you born and why did you move here?
I was born in Louisville, Mississippi. I grew up in a small town, pretty much like Nantucket. Everybody knew everybody. I have 4 brothers and 1 sister. We were very close in age, and we just had a great childhood. My dad was a truck driver. He took us on a lot of vacations, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom most of the time. So I met my husband in college at Mississippi State University, and we were married on June 11th, and we moved here on June 13th, 1988. My oldest daughter, graduated from Mississippi State University, and my youngest is attending there now. So we're keeping up the tradition.
Can you tell me a little more about your kids?
Okay, I have 3 kids. I'm a daughter that's 29, or her name is Whitney. She is currently attending Oxford Brookes in England to get her master's in accounting. My son is 27 years old. His name is Joshua, and Joshua is the one that was in the car accident. It was almost exactly 4 years ago that he was in a very bad car accident out in South Dakota. And he had to learn to walk and talk and pretty much think all over again. He attended college at University of New England. He was a couple of credits shy of getting his diploma. That's a goal we'll be working on for him in the next couple of years to make sure he gets his diploma. And then my youngest is 20. Her name is Jasmine, and she wants to be a fashion designer. So she is majoring in fashion at Mississippi State University and doing quite well.
What would you say is your most positive character trait?
I love an adventure. I'm always up for a challenge. I think that speaks volumes for me.
What have you done to act on this trait?
Don't you want to know? I've done quite a few things. I've been on Nantucket for about 30 years. Like I said, I worked for the same company for about 26 years. That was Nantucket Bank. I gave a lot of time and energy. I was creative. I created products. We did a lot of firsts with Nantucket Bank. And I think my sense of adventure, is what helped move that along in my position. And after that, I embarked on a few other things. I like to think of myself as a party planner, an organizer, although if you saw my house, you probably wouldn't think that. I love a challenge. I'm up for anything. If someone says, hey, Zona, you want to try this? I'm like, sure, let's do it. Except for bungee jumping. That's not something I ever want to do.
Many people know that you won the Russert Award. So first off, what is the Russert Award?
So the Tim Russert Award is an award that was created by the Nantucket Boys and Girls Club to honor Timothy Russert. He was a strong advocate for the Boys and Girls Club. he was very instrumental in helping raising money for the Boys and Girls Club annually with our Summer Groove concert. And I was honored to win that award. To be recognized at that level was just, the ultimate goal. I think I've reached some really great goals. Bucket list. My bucket list is very short nowadays.
What was it like to win the award, and how did it impact your life?
I won that award the same year that my son was in a devastating car accident. So to me, that year was really tough. And he survived, which is a blessing in itself. I had to take care of my son, who was the ultimate Boys and Girls Club attendant, let me say. The impact that award had on my life was it just told me, you never stop, you never give up, and you have to take care of the children. It just made me feel like, I had done something right in this world.
So you do a lot of volunteer work. What specifically do you do?
Well, I volunteer a lot with my church. I also volunteer for the Nantucket Girl Scouts, or the Girl Scouts of New England. I'm a lifetime Girl Scout. I was never a Girl Scout growing up, but that was an area, again, I got involved with when I was involved with the club. I realized that Girl Scouts existed on Nantucket, and it was a viable institution. And I wanted to get involved with that because women hold important roles in the world. And I wanted girls on Nantucket to be aware of that and get involved. So I volunteered there. I've also volunteered for numerous organizations on the island. I'm a part of the Harvey Foundation right now. I've been a part of Small Friends on Nantucket. I'd like to emphasize that volunteering is important for everyone. This community is full of opportunities to volunteer, and you never know when that opportunity is going to present itself for you to volunteer. And if you ever have a need in your life, those same people, the same community that volunteers wherever there's a need are the people that come back to you. I think it's important to give back some of your time. If you have it, give some. My problem right now is saying no. I think I have a little too much on my plate because of my love of volunteering. You can't do your volunteering well if you do too much, I think. And that's something I've learned the hard way.
You said your son was in a car accident. What was it like for you?
Wow, that was tough. I had just retired from my job of 26 years, and I was, checking some things off the bucket list, if you will. And I had spoken to my son that night, the night of his accident, and I told him to be careful. It was snowing. And the next morning is when I got the news. All I could think was, I got to get to him as quickly as I can. And being on Nantucket, that's not always easy. It was hard, but at the same time, I went into take charge mode. And all I could think of is, what do I need to do next? What does he need? Where can he best be serviced? Do I have him in the right place? Gathering all of my resources, anybody I knew in the, medical profession, anybody that had gone through anything similar, I was reaching out and getting all the channels together that I needed for him. I lived with him in the hospital for 3 months, and then we came home, and my whole life became making sure everything was aligned and in the right order for him, that he was getting all the help that he could possibly get to get him back on his feet, working on his own. He has a traumatic brain injury, and that's something you can't control. But other than that, physically, he's come a long way. He wasn't able to walk before, but he had great therapists. He is now walking without assistance. He is still working out and receiving physical therapy. Thank you, Joe Manning, for that. And, he's making strides. And I'd like to, one day see him married with kids and living his life. And I believe that God has it in store for him.
How is he doing now?
He's doing really well. He volunteers. Speaking of volunteerism, I think he picked up that a little bit from me. He volunteers to help out with the basketball team, which is his love. He really enjoys, helping others. And the kids, they have a lot of respect for him.
That sounds like a really, really hard time in your life.
Yeah, it was.
So let's focus on something a little more lighthearted and a little happier. What was the best thing that has ever happened to you?
The best thing that happens to me is usually the joy I get out of helping somebody else or letting someone else have a dream come true, if you will. My kids, to me, are the best thing that happened to me. I don't think of them at all as any type of disappointment because I can live a little vicarious through them, you know? And so the most fun I had in the last few years, I have to say, was my daughter's Sweet 16. I threw her a Sweet 16, and I let her invite 150 kids. I don't know what I was thinking. But it was so much fun. I had so much fun planning it. You know, it was one of the things I did right after I retired from work, just before my son's accident, is that we did that. And it was great. So I hope she had a great time because I certainly did.
You said in the past that you love how close the Nantucket community is. Why is that?
Because I'm a family person. I love family. I love enjoying doing things together, seeing people every day saying hi and sharing your lives. The accident happened with my son. The way the community came together without any kind of effort on my part is a part of what made it so easy. You know, when I was flying to get to him as quickly as possible, I was reading something on Facebook, and I'm not a Facebook person. It was shared that everybody was lighting a candle for my son. And someone said that they were flying over Nantucket and they can see the candles. And I thought that was an awesome picture, you know, and that gave me strength. So that's what I like, you know, sharing and feeling the sense of family and unbridled love, support when people are in need. And you get that and you see that. We can agree to disagree. But when it comes down to it, we still care about each other and we support each other no matter what.
What do you want to say to all the kids growing up in today's modern day society that will help them go through life?
First of all, be a kid. Don't not enjoy your time as a kid, not having responsibility, not having to pay bills and be responsible for somebody else. Enjoy your childhood. And then make good choices. You know, I think everybody has it in them and knows right from wrong, good from bad. Make good choices and you will be a success. Whatever you work on, work hard at it, give it every bit that you have, and in the end, you will succeed. You'll be a success.
As you were saying earlier, you love helping the Nantucket community. What do you think we, as the community, can do to better the island?
We can continue to support each other, but if you see somebody in need, help. Don't walk by. Don't not stop. Don't not say hi. Sometimes we do that, and it's so easy to do that. But if you see somebody that looks like they could use a hello, how are you today, do it. You'd be surprised at how those simple words can help pull someone out of a slump that they're in. There's a lot of, I think, depression and loneliness on the island, some that we don't even know about. But it's part of the isolation, the gray lady that we have to deal with. We don't realize sometimes that all someone needs is a smile, an acknowledgement that they exist and that they're important. I think if we do just a little bit more of that, we'd be surprised at the effect it'll have on everyone involved.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
And with Zona Butler, she talked about how surprisingly it wasn't easy, but it was easier than she thought after her son got in the car accident. She said that the whole community sort of came together and helped her, and it was a lot easier than she thought it would be to, help him recover and get him into PT and all that stuff that you need to help a recovering child.
Did anyone else have something that they heard that surprised them about their person, whether it was a story or something about Nantucket or their life that really you were like, oh, I didn't know that?
It was kind of cool to see how they talked about growing up here, or
if they didn't, like where they grew up, but you could kind of relate and just see how the island has changed so much since when they came here and since we were born and they grew up here.
Go around and just say one word about what the experience was like.
Interesting.
Exciting.
Nerve-wracking.
Extraordinary.
Funny. Nerve-wracking.
Interesting.
Emotional.
Exciting. Nerve-wracking.
Well, I feel like it sort of, like people who are going to come watch this production are going to learn a lot more about the community and how close we are as a community. And, like, how much the island has changed throughout the years and how it's still continuing to change. I feel like it just brings us all a little bit closer.
On 3, we all go, cut. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.